of this webinar, which is the second part. So I'd like to start with a few, let's say, rules for today. What's important, because we're with so many people, we muted most of you. If you haven't muted yourself, this is not because we don't want to hear your questions, but just because of the sheer size of the group. If you want to ask questions, and I hope I'm still there. So we use the chat to ask the questions. Your answers will be also given in the chat, but at the end of each session, when we do the Q&A, we will go over the questions in the chat, and just also for the sake of all other people listening, discuss these questions as well at that point. A little bit then, maybe we can move to slide 2, to the index slides, Thomas. Yeah, thank you very much. So we'll start with a general introduction for those of you that don't know us. Then, like I said, we have an hour session on tank cleaning. Then we do a short break because it is quite a long webinar with about 2 hours. So there will be a break around 11 o'clock for those of you. 11 o'clock, that's European time, so that's in an hour. So probably about 5 o'clock your time. And then we will continue again after 5 to 10 minutes. Having said that, I will give now the word to René, who will start with a presentation on tank cleaning.
Thank you, Bart, for the introduction. Like I said, we have a lot of issues to cover today. So I will start with introducing myself. My name is René. I work with Marine Care here in our office in Rotterdam.
So that's the issue. So we need to go back.
It has presentation room. We have sales offices here, and more importantly, our own laboratory, where we do a lot of research and development and innovation for new products for the maritime market. As you can see here, this is a picture of our laboratory. Our chemical engineers are working here on quality control, research and development, and product innovations. It's a fully equipped lab where we can do basically all analysis and especially research for new products and the cleaning capability and properties of our products. We're a private-owned business, and we have been established in 1997. We are working now with approximately 50 employees worldwide. And we are, well, basically, as you can see, have a couple of product groups. Our core business is tank cleaning, but we also have hold cleaning, cleaning chemicals, deck and engine room, maintenance products for fuel and water treatment, and also for boiler and cooling water treatment. We have a whole range of chemicals. Moreover, especially during the introduction of the sulfur cap, we have also doing more business in the scrubber for the scrubber plants on board of the vessels. So we are supplying sodium hydroxide and polymers for the bleed-off systems of these particular systems. Here you see a summary of where we are with our own offices in Miami, Bergen, Rotterdam, and Singapore, and our premium resellers in Busan, Suez, and Riga. More importantly, we are represented in all the main ports, the main hubs, and For example, Houston, United Arab Emirates, of course, Panama, Durban, Algeciras, South Africa, and South America. We are present by either local distribution partners or stock points. How do we do business? It's very important that we have a 24/7 coverage, especially while we are operating worldwide, of course. We are having our laboratory doing research and development, not only for ourselves, but also we invite our customers to come over with, for example, contaminations. They have problems with cleaning the vessels, and we look for a solution for both.
Okay, no problem.
Besides that, we have on board an online service, which we call Fleet Care. And with this Fleet Care support service, we can optimize the cleaning process with marine care chemicals. We are supporting the crew on board and also support them by doing checks in our laboratory and in our tank cleaning simulator. Especially the last couple of months, of course, due to the restrictions of COVID and being present on board physically, the online service is very important. Now we will start with a general summary of our tank cleaning chemicals, being divided in alkaline cleaners, acidic cleaners, pH neutral cleaners, solvent-based cleaners, and specialties. The specialties we will address today are CareClean Accelerate VO and CareClean Eco Solve. First, start with the alkaline products, being CareClean SC, CareClean Alkaline, and CareClean Alkaline Extra. Three products are used for veg oil cleaning, light mineral oils, but also very important for IG soot removal. CareClean SC is a silicate-based product, meaning that it is mildly alkalic, makes it suitable to use on zinc coatings as well. The CareClean Alkaline and Alkaline Extra are hydroxide-based products with a high pH. Cannot be used on zinc, but on epoxy and stainless steel without any problems. Our acidic tank cleaning products. CareClean Rust and CareClean Formula 4 are both phosphoric acid-based cleaners, being used especially in combination with alkaline cleaners after cleaning veg oils. After veg oils, a big problem are the insoluble hardness compounds which remains on the tank wall, and most of the time these are removed by either CareClean Rust or Formula 4. Difference between the two products is the percentage of phosphoric acid and also the detergents and surfactants which support the phosphoric acid. Formula 4 is highly concentrated, which means it is also used as a pet shop chemical for stainless steel. The three bottom products, being CareClean Passivating Liquid, PL-Con, and Pickling Liquid, are only used on stainless steel tanks. Passivating Liquid and PL-Con both are nitric acid based, used for passivation in stainless steel, where passivation liquid is a pre-diluted nitric acid based product, and PL-Con is a concentrated nitric acid based product. Pickling liquid is for the pickling of stainless steel, which is done after the alloy is deformated, for example, due to the heat ingress of the welding process, but also heavy staining on stainless steel after, for example, burn marks of sulfuric acid or green phosphoric acid. The product is used to restore the top layer, which enables the alloy to out-passivate again. Then the neutral, pH neutral cleaners, concentrated tank cleaner, well known as CT, highly concentrated detergent product, which is often used not only as a standalone cleaner, but also to spike the acid or alkaline solution. The product basically provides surface tension breaking for the optimal penetration of either alkaline or acid. Neutral ACF is a typical hydrocarbon-free cleaner using to get rid of the last hydrocarbons if a high cleanliness standard is required for the next cargo. And CareClean, MultiClean and AquaWash are both detergent-based products with a neutral pH, rather safe, but good cleaning products on light mineral oils, sometimes also used as cleaners for veg oils. Then we go to the tank cleaning products which are based on solvents, either being mineral or natural solvents. CareTank Eco is a very strong cleaning product based on natural solvents, where CareClean Voyage, also known as Sea Cleaner, very famous product over the last 40 years, being used for the mineral oil-based contamination, the DPPs to CPPs. And it is based on mineral oil and a combination of detergents. This product has been taking over in the market the last couple of years by the more sophisticated products based on natural solvents like CareTank Eco. CareTank Eco also has a benefit over the other products because you can use it not only for mineral oil-based contaminations, but also for veg oil cleans. And on top of that, it's also a hydrocarbon-free cleaner. We see CareTank Eco being used a lot on used cooking oil the last couple of years. Now for today's challenge in the market, cleaning of palm fatty acids or vegetable oils in general. As you can see on the right-hand side picture, this is the palm fruit, where the orange part is the fruit flesh and the whitish part in the middle is the nut and the kernel. These are being separated from one another in a crushing mill, where the fruits are pressed to produce crude palm oil, and the nuts are crushed and the kernels are pressed to produce palm kernel oil. These fruits, so the crude palm kernel and the crude palm oil, are being refined. And for example, if you look to the refining process of the CPO, it's being degummed first. After that, it's bleached, filtered and deodorized, the so-called RBD palm oil. In this deodorizing part of the process, PFAT is formed. The oil is being heated and the vapor, which is condensated, is palm fatty acid distillate. Now the fatty acids, which are most of the times provides the biggest problem during the cleanings, providing these typical whitish residues. As you can see, are long hydrocarbon acids. You see on the right-hand side this picture where you see the carbon side, the dark side of this molecule, and on top the two red dots being the oxygen part. The gray part or the carbon part is hydrophobic, so it repels water. And the top part is hydrophilic, which means it attracts water. So as it says here, in total, these fatty acid compounds are poorly water soluble. Also, they form a reaction with the hardness compound being calcium or magnesium, in seawater, forming this typical fatty, greasy salt scale. Here on the right-hand side, the top picture is typical palm fatty acid distillate. As you can see, it's bleached, where it used to be orange as CPO, it's bleached, so it remains a whitish substance. This is a problem for a lot of cleanings due to the fact that reaction with the hardness salt of seawater is imminent. So yeah, like what we see in the market is that a cleaning of this cargo most of the times is being done in two phases. First with an alkaline cleaner, and the second part is removing these hardness salts and cargo residues by phosphoric acid. The high pH of a cleaning in combination with high temperatures are a problem, because at these high temperatures the calcium and other hardness compound will precipitate, and that is what you want to prevent when cleaning. As you can see here on in this graph, you see the solubility of calcium. Now, as you can see from left to right, if the temperature is rising, you see the solubility of calcium is decreasing. It is precipitating and it's creating carbon dioxide. This is also for sulfate. And as you can see, the CO2 concentration is increasing when temperatures are rising. So a combination of a high pH, which I will show in the next slide, and high temperature are the reason for the precipitation of this typical calcium carbonate, and also the free fatty acid, which make a reaction with these hardness compounds. Like I said, also pH is very important and of big influence on the precipitation. As you can see here also, pH going up to over 10 to 12, for example, typical for cleaning with alkaline-based cleaners. You will see that well, you are creating the problem of precipitation. Now, how can that be prevented instead of being solved afterwards? First of all, if you can clean at a low pH, it would definitely contribute. So for example, cleaning instead of with an alkaline cleaner, with an acid cleaner, either being phosphoric acid or citric acid, make sure that the pH stays low, which contributes to a better cleaning process. Now, if you compare phosphoric acid with citric acid is even better due to its particular molecular structure, which forms complexes with the hardness salt and also with a part of the fatty acids. On the right-hand side, you see the pictures of a typical whitish residue after palm fatty acids cleaning. Now, with this information and knowledge, Marine Care invented a product based on citric acid. But besides citric acid, of course, there is a very balanced mix of surfactants, which are also important during the cleaning process, because you, first of all, you have to remove the compounds, but then also you have to keep it soluble in the cleaning process when you are recirculating and you want to transport the contamination throughout the cleaning and basically in the end dispose it to sea or to a slop tank. This is what we know the first product in the market which is able to combine these two aspects together. And in the process of the cleaning on palm fatty acid distillate, we found out, due to a lot of testing with our customers, that it's basically can be used on all vegetable oils like stearin, CPO, canola oil, soybean, etc. Here I would like to start a video.
Just a moment, the video will open in a second window. Share now. Okay, just checking, is everybody seeing the video now?
First of all, we checked the cleaning properties in our lab, of course, and what you will see here is the difference in cleaning of palm fatty acid distillate and CPO with different chemicals. We speeded up the footage, of course, otherwise it would take a little bit too long. On the left-hand side, there's an alkaline cleaner, and on the right-hand side, there is a CareClean Accelerate VO. Exactly the same contamination, the same plate with the same temperature. As you can see on the right-hand side, the palm fatty acid is dissolving quite fast. And also on CPO, we did a similar test where you can see that the contamination is dissolving quite fast. But also you can see the difference in cleaning solutions on the left-hand side with alkaline cleaner that's very clouded. And on the right-hand side, it is still a very clear cleaning substance. We stopped the presentation of the footage of the cleaning, telling you about the advantages of CareClean Accelerate VO. First of all, already mentioned it, a one-step cleaner instead of two. Like I said, normally if you clean vegetable oils, especially with a high fatty acid content, in an alkaline solution, you get precipitation of the hardness salts, which well, basically provides the problem, and a mandatory second phase cleaning with phosphoric acid is necessary. We can use less chemicals with accelerate VO. So there's also economical benefits, not only for reduced bunker consumption due to less cleaning time, lower temperatures. The product is optimal between 60 and 70 degrees. But this bunker consumption is also very important. You can imagine, of course, if you need second phase cleanings with phosphoric acid, basically it's a 4 to 6 hours additional cleaning. Now, for example, if you clean 2 tanks per 6 hours, let's say 12 tanks, you can win 36 hours. Now, if you have to do this cleaning at high temperatures, it means that a lot of bunkers are necessary to heat up the boiler. So let's say 0.5 ton bunkers per hour. With the 36-hour win is 80 tons of fuel. Now, at an approximate price of $400 to $500 US per ton, you can do the math. But moreover, and that's also an important fact, is that cleaning this way is also improving the CO2 footprint. Because in this example, 18 tons of fuel is creating 35 to 40 tons of carbon dioxide. So basically you can say that it's also more environmental friendly. Besides that, it cleans so well that often you can work directly to a hydrocarbon-free standard if that is required for the next cargo. And it's working on drying, semi-drying and non-drying vegetable oils. Also, it is not toxic for the aquatic environment, so not marine pollutant and not corrosive. What we do before customers start to work with our product is that we send them a questionnaire, because the way of cleaning and the process is slightly different than what most people are used. So what we do is we send this questionnaire where we can make a tailor-made cleaning plan along with the crew. Questions like which cargoes have to be cleaned, of course, are important, but also how many tanks do you need to clean? What is the volume of the tank which need to be cleaned? Temperature requirements. Are you cleaning over the tank itself, or are you going to use a slop tank? The volume for recirculation, cleanliness standard, but also important, of course, is the material coating of the cargo tank. Like I said earlier, zinc tanks cannot be cleaned due to the low pH of the product. Now, as you can see here, this is just a example of how you could clean the tanks. On the right hand side, the direct circulations, mostly done for tanks with small volumes. The cleaning solution is often heated by the deck heater, being introduced by the tank cleaning machines, being collected at the sump and worked up back through the heater to the butter wash machines. On the left hand side, you see a cleaning over a slop tank or 2 slop tanks, depending on situation on board. Where the cleaning solution is heated up in the slop tanks and being introduced into the cargo tanks. In terms of percentage of using CareClean Accelerate VO, this can make a huge difference. I will tell you more about that when we are at the typical figures, when we compare the cleaning with the traditional alkaline and acid cleaners and Accelerate VO. Here you see pictures of the results on the left-hand side. Stainless steel tank cleaned with Accelerate VO. And on the right-hand side, the condition of the tank after the process of alkaline cleaning. This is before a rust cleaner is introduced to remove these whitish residues. But as you can see, the typical whitish residues stick to the walls, and also and especially on the heating coils, as this process tends to be worse where the heat is transferred. Also some pictures before introducing CareClean Accelerate VO and after. And this is the cleaning comparison we've been able to make based on our experience on board of the vessels of our customers. We picked out 4 cargoes here, being palm fatty acid distillate and fatty acid C16, 12 and 10 plus, because these cargoes contain the highest percentage of free fatty acid, creating the biggest problems. The cleaning time with Accelerate VO in the second column. You see that when you compare each and every cleaning, you're able to gain 4 to 6 hours on palm fatty acid distillate, but also on the other fatty acid products, it's still 2.5 to 4 hours per tank. Now you can imagine if you have to clean a complete vessel with 12 to 14 tanks, for example, that you win a lot of time and subsequently a lot of money as well. And that's not only for the turnaround, but also for bunker consumption. When you look at the dosage of the products, on the palm fatty acid, we have 2 examples. We have a 2 to 3% dilution, which is in general, because we always look at the setup of the process on board of the vessels. For example, if you're cleaning over the tank itself and you have a required cleaning volume for recirculation of 5 cubic meters, then 2% provides 100 liter of product. But sometimes the cleaning volume of the recirculation is lower due to the fact that the vessel is in trim or simply because of the design of the tank. Now let's say that you can recirculate with 2 cubic meters, this 2% only provides 40 liters. Now these 40 liters you have to compare to the capacity of the tank. And that's why we always look at it at 2 ways. We say a percentage of 2 to 3%, but also we say you need approximately 30 liters of product per 500 cubic meter tank content. That is very important, simply because the 2 cubic meters with 40 liters in a 1500 cubic meter tank, the cleaning solution is simply saturated too quick. The second example, the second example of PFAT cleaning, we were able to do it in 6 hours using the slop tank for this particular process. What we do is we fill the slop tank with a huge amount of water, in this particular case 250 cubic meters of water. And we looked at the capacity of the tanks which needed to be cleaned. Now, for example, if you have 10 tanks of all 1000 cubics, of course, which is 2 times 500, resulting in 60 liters. You can gain a lot of chemicals using the slop tank, because The slop tank can also be used to separate the contamination coming into the tank, floating on top, and keeping the cleaning solution clean at the bottom, which can be used to reintroduce to the next tanks. This is a special setup. You either need a big volume in the slop tank or two slop tanks, where one is used for reception of the cleaning solution coming from the dirty tanks, and the first one having transferred water from. The first slop tank is only used to introduce the water to the tanks again. On the right-hand side, you see the typical percentages used for cleaning upon fatty acid, often being 5% of an alkaline cleaner and a subsequent cleaning of 5% with an acid. Now, as you can see, it will not only save you in time, but also in chemical consumption. Then also very important is, of course, the approval. As you can see, for CareClean Accelerate VO, we have approvals from the major coating manufacturers, and also, of course, an IMO approval for disposal of Annex II cargo into the CO board. The coating manufacturers being International, PPG, so the Vanguard, NovaGuard, epoxy coatings, the Hempel 15,000 series, the Jotun Flex line, the Chukogu T500, T800, and of course the Marine line coating 784 gave an approval for safe usage of this product on their coatings. Before we move on to our next product, being CareClean EcoSolve, I was wondering if there were any questions we need to answer before we move to the next subject.
There was actually a lot of questions, René, going via our chat.
Nice.
There were, of course, in the beginning, especially some questions around the pricing of the product, being it relatively expensive if you look at the liter price. But of course, you explained clearly that if you look at the overall cost of the cleaning and the concentration you need, it's actually in the overall cost of use, probably a very cheap option. Peter already answered quite a few of them. Let me check. What was the first question? There's still messages popping in. There was a question around CareClean rust remover, if it can be used on zinc tanks at a percentage of 2%, but we already advised that is not really smart.
pH is too low, and there's always a risk of reaction with the zinc coating.
Then Captain Nair Revidaran asked Peter for a procedure from diesel to methanol, which cleaners at what percentages, but Peter will come back to that directly to him. Let me check what was the next questions. I think most of them covered. And there was some questions again, indeed, over the recirculation of XPO, which was also answered by Peter, that indeed, when you make a slop batch, you can recirculate it over at least 6 to 8 tanks normally. And then there's indeed some questions around the temperature. We see here a customer that says they use 85 to 90 degrees. But we say that for accelerated VO, normally the temperature range should be between 65 and 80.
Depends a little bit on the melting point of the product, of course, also of the cargo.
This was specifically for PFAT. And I think that's it for the first part.
Okay, thank you, Bart. Thank you, Peter. By the way, for those who do not know him, Bart mentioned him. Peter is my colleague. He is our in-house supercargo, and he's answering your questions in the chat box. Thanks, Peter, for that. We move on to the next product, being Basically starting with the next challenge in the cleaning market, and that is what we saw the last 1.5 years, that many vessels changed from dirty petroleum to clean petroleum. Now, of course, if you've been carrying dirty petroleum for a long period of time, these cargoes tend to settle, at least the heavier fractions of these cargoes, creating a thick layer at the bottom of the tank, waxy, very high viscous, and sometimes even solidified, these typical asphaltanes and bituminous contamination. Now, transferring from DPP to CPP, of course, creates cleaning problems, which in the past were normally dealt with by the traditional oil-based cleaning products like CareClean Voyage. We looked at this problem and invented a new product based on natural solvents with a very good cleaning property on especially these heavier fractions, these heavy mineral contaminations. Also, you can imagine that cleaning of the slop tanks after recirculation of these very difficult cargoes was a big challenge. The products used, like CareClean Voyage, emulsified, of course, but not as good as CareClean EcoSolve, resulting in quicker cleaning times now, also when cleaning the slop tanks. At the center bottom picture, you see this typical tarish contamination which you find at the bottom of the tanks. Now, if you compare the concentration of CareClean EcoSolve towards the traditional solvents like CareClean Voyage, you see that a 1:10 to 5:10 dosage creates a big benefit in terms of less drums on board. It's very efficient. And for example, if normally DPP to CPP required 50 to even 80 drums of 200 liter of a mineral oil-based cleaner, you can do the same cleaning now with 20 drums, 15 to 20 drums of EcoSolve, for example. Besides that, we saw that the emulsion in seawater, which is mainly used for these DPP to CPP cleanings due to the fact that you use enormous amounts of water, is very important, not only during cleaning, but also after that. The emulsion makes sure that the contamination stays soluble. It makes it easier to transport through the system and prevents redepositioning in the lines and in the slop tanks and tanks. Also, this stable emulsion creating better rinsing results. So after the cleaning phase, when the tanks are flushed with water to remove contamination and chemicals, you need less water to clean or remove the deposit, which also creates less slop volume, which is very important, especially with these Annex 1 cargoes, because, well, you have to keep them and dispose them onshore, being Annex 1 cargo. So if you can save on slop volume, you will save a lot of money. Like I said earlier, the slop tank cleaning, also very important. A fun fact of this product is that the contamination deposits are emulsified, but if standing idle for some time, you see that the contaminations are sinking to the bottom of the slop tank instead of floating on top, which we are used with when cleaning with these typical oil-based, mineral oil-based cleaning products. So what happens is, if the contamination settles, it's at the bottom of the tank, which is more easy to clean afterwards. Then when the contamination, not fully in emulsion, floats on top, redepositioning at 10 meters high in your slop tank. Also, this product is not subjected to the International Maritime Dangerous Goods, so no classification, and it's also non-toxic for the aquatic life environment. Here you see the pictures of the results of cleaning with EcoSolve. On the left-hand side, typical sediments at the bottom of the tank. And on the right-hand side, after recirculation with CareClean EcoSolve. The improvements, cleaning with EcoSolve, as said before, cleaning properties not only on the bitumes, coal tar, HFO, etc., but it's also being used to clean lubricant oils. When cleaning from lubricant oils, of course, the dilution of the product only needs to be 0.3 to 0.5%, where for the typical DPP, CPP cleanings 1 to 2% is more common. And having a neutral pH, of course, because it's a solvent, it's suitable for zinc, epoxy, and stainless steel. And the mix, the balanced mix of detergents makes the product extremely compatible with seawater, creating a very steady emulsion. As mentioned earlier before, reduction of rinse water and subsequent slop volume, which saves a lot of money not having to dispose it. And it can be used as a hydrocarbon-free cleaning if necessary for a next cargo. And it's not labeled marine pollutant or classified for transport. Now shifting to the second part of the presentation, I would like to tell you and show you our latest innovation, being a tank cleaning simulation unit. As you can see, we build a tank on the right-hand side. You see an approximately cubic content tank. With a butter wash machine, there is heating coils at the bottom. We can introduce water, both fresh water, demineralized water, but also artificial seawater. So basically we can simulate a complete cleaning process on board of a vessel. In the middle you see the black tank, which is being used as a slop tank. Besides the testing of our cleaning products, which we do, we can also check on, for example, the effect on certain chemicals on the actual coating. So we can check the quality of coating. What we often do also is, for example, check on cleaning property on specific cargoes. Of course, this is a visual check. But also we can simulate a cleaning process where we can, after the cleaning process, check the actual wash water on the presence of a lost cargo. So the so-called wash water analysis can also be done. We have a possibility to clean in an open cycle, and we can draw samples from the bottom. These samples are being taken to the laboratory and we check them with spectrophotometers and make graphs to see if, for example, a substance is completely solved or at least is under, for example, a typical 100 ppm absorbance in UV. Here you see another picture of this setup. Also inside of the water tanks, there are heating coils, so that can also be heated. And I think that the next picture will show, or footage will show, the unit recirculating, which we will start now.
Ja. Relatief.
As you can see now, this is the machine simulating a complete cleaning phase. As you can see, the butter wash machines are making these typical cycles. At the back of the tank, you see a plate which we put in there with some contamination. So yeah, at this rear end we can place various plates with various contamination and check if our cleaning products in combination with temperature and pressure can clean the contamination. This is, for what we know, the closest of going to a cleaning process on board. Of course, in our laboratory we can do a lot of solubility tests, but this well, comes close to the real life situation on board of the vessel. Okay, this was the first part of the presentation. I'm not sure if there are any questions on the second part. Then I would suggest to take a coffee break, and we will restart the presentation, starting with the basics of spectrophotometry, being done by my colleague Thomas. Let's make it a 10-minute coffee break and start approximately at 11:05.
Okay, everyone, break is over. We will now continue with part 2 on the Caretech SpectroScan. I saw that Peter has answered most of the questions on the tank wash, and we will continue to follow up on these questions. But we will wrap them up at a certain point and come back by email so that new questions on the wash water analysis and spectrophotometer can be answered. So I'm giving the word now to Thomas. Thomas, you can open up your mic and take the show.
Good morning and good afternoon. So we go to the second part of the webinar. Okay, I will start the presentation. Okay, so let's innovation, the Caretech SpectroScan UV-Vis Smart Log. It's a user-friendly 7-inch touchscreen where you can do automatic curve on curve. I will show that in the second part of this presentation, where we show you the machine and how to make this curves. A little bit basics on the spectrophotometry. How does the machine work and how can this benefit to us? So first, the machine is using electromagnetic waves, and the electromagnetic waves have a broad spectrum from broadcast bands to radio, radar, microwaves, infrared, and we use with the machine a small part which is the visible light and the ultraviolet light. And if you get more smaller wavelengths, then you go to the X-rays, gamma rays. The smaller the wavelength, the more energy. The longer the wavelength, less energy. So normal light has a little bit less energy than ultraviolet light. So how does the machine work? Well, there is a light source in the machine that produces the ultraviolet and visible light as a mix. It goes to a lens, so it diverges the wavelengths into a system that's called a monochromator, prism, or grating, different words for it. And this device splits all the wavelengths into separate wavelengths. Then it goes to a system that's called a selector or slit to ensure that there is each wavelength goes through this system. Then the amount of light of each wavelength goes through a sample solution. A part of it will be absorbed and the remaining light goes through the detector. And the absorbance then will be shown as a value on a display. So that's in short how the machine works. Now there are different types of machine on the market.
Just have some complaints on the sound, so I'm just checking. Just checking in the presentation if we can optimize the settings for sound. Let's go back to the presentation, and please in the chat let me know now if the sound is better.
The sound is better now?
Yeah, the sound is better now.
The sound is better, okay. So I'll start again, I'll start from here. So we, this part, so there's a light source, a lens that's splitting all the small wavelengths into separate parts. It goes to the sample solution. A part of it will be absorbed, a part of it will be transmitted, and this will be detected by the detector, and that will transfer into a result on a display. So that's in short how the machine works. Now there are different types of machine on the market. There are single beam devices, spectrophotometers, and split beam. So the single beam is a smaller device. It's easy to use and schematically look like this. There's also a split beam. Then there is a second detector. A part of the light is being directed to this detector, and this detector makes sure that there is better stability, better repeatability, auto-calibrating continuously, and very important, especially on a vessel, there is no influence due to this system by vibrations. So how does it look in a machine? I want to emphasize, never open a machine. These parts of the spectrophotometer are very delicate. They should not be opened up like this, especially the mirrors and the monochromator. So here is a detector. Then there is some mirrors. Then there are some mirrors that conjugate the signal. Then there is a monochromator. So here the wavelength is separated into smaller parts. Then it goes to another mirror, and here is the 50% mirror where the first detector is detecting the light from the light source and continuously calibrating the system. The remaining light goes to the sample. A part of it will be absorbed and detected by this detector and show as a value on the screen. So that's in short how the machine works and how it looks like. So absorbance, what does it do and what is it effect on? So there is an amount of light. Then there is a sample with a concentration of a substance or cargo that's absorbing the light. And then there is the pad length. You can imagine the longer the pad of the cuvette, so if you have 10 mm or 50 mm, that will affect, of course, the amount of absorbance. And secondly, the concentration in a solution will affect the absorbance. So the higher the concentration, the more absorbance. So this is how it benefits and how it can be used. The remaining light that's not being absorbed will be going to the detector. So how can we apply this to the spectrophotometer? So there are three applications the spectrophotometry can be of use. First of all, there is the wall wash testing. So the normal wall wash samples are normally done, the analysis is done by eye. The results are checked if there is a pass or a fail, for instance, for water miscibility or alpha color or chlorides in water. And these especially are sometimes discussable as the results are difficult to see by eye, especially, for instance, alpha color below 10, it's very difficult to determine if it's 5, 3 or 2, and the machine gives you a value, so there is no discussion. Similar with water miscibility, some say I see there is a turbidity, some say there's not, and this machine easily gives you a value and a pass or fail. So that's that could be of help, of course. Secondly, the wash water analysis to determine the cleanliness of a tank according to the charterer's requirements. Some charterers require that you wash under a certain concentration of a cargo. So the machine has a database of hundreds of cargoes inside. I will show you in the second part how to utilize that. And thirdly, the wash water analysis can be used to do a cleaning optimization. So the pre-cleaning open flush is done with water or seawater, and you can monitor this process and see if anything is happening anymore or not. And that can save you, of course, a lot of cleaning time. So first, wall wash testing. So all the wall wash analysis are inside the machine as a program. So the alpha color test, the chloride in methanol, chloride in water, hydrocarbon low range, hydrocarbon high range, and the TBC test. Then there are some additional tests present on the machine, HMD, PTT, the alpha 500, where you can check your alpha standard if it's still the correct value. and a TOC value. Then there are possibilities to do a UV scan, either absorbance or transmittance. You can do that for the wall wash testing, but also for wash water analysis. Standard, there are three ranges: 200, 350, 220, 350, 200, and 1000. But you can program yourself other values if you like. Secondly, the wash water analysis, the cleanliness determination. So that's the analysis according to the charter's requirements. So acceptance of a tank cleanliness by cleaning towards a predetermined reference graph of a substance or cargo. These reference graph indicates a maximum level of the accepted contamination present during the cleaning. And these reference graphs are available on the machine itself. You can open them up from the database. An example here looks like this. So there is in this example, there is a 100 ppm toluene. That's the yellow line. That is the line inside the machine. You call it on the database to start your measurements. And in this example, there is a washing of after 20 minutes, a sample is taken that's higher than the 100 ppm reference line. That will show on the screen, and then you take more samples after 40 minutes, after 60 minutes, and in this case it's lower than 100 ppm, so then you know you are finished and you are according the requirements of your charter. And it looks a bit like this. Secondly, there is the wash water analysis for your cleaning optimization. That reduces the tank cleaning time and the cleaning process just by monitoring the wash water. So then you know what you're doing. Instead of just say, okay, I'm washing do a hot wash for 2 hours. I'm going to monitor my washing and see what's happening during the cleaning. And maybe I can reduce the cleaning time by this. So the UV vis scan of the wash water is being done during the open cycle, especially, for instance, to an Annex 1 to a slop. That reduces the washing time and avoids overwashing. Of course, reducing the washing time will reduce fuel consumption, as it is a hot wash. And when it's an Annex 1, you reduce the creation of wastewater. And finally, you will save time. So you can imagine if you save 30 minutes on the cleaning per tank, you have 12 tanks. That's a lot of time and a lot of waste that's being reduced. So how does such a monitoring is done with the machine? So wash water samples are taken, for instance, after every cycle, depends. And the pre-wash is finished when the graph is flat or does not change anymore. So in this example, you start the washing, take a sample on the manifold, and you see a certain absorbance line. Then after another 40 minutes, you see the line dropping until it's 0 or nothing changes anymore. And then you know you're finished. So, but this way you can monitor the wash water and reduce the cleaning time. By reducing the cleaning time, you reduce, of course, also fuel consumption. Now, in this example, the fuel consumption is around 0.5 ton of heavy fuel oil per 1,000 ton tank. So if you save half an hour, you save 0.25 tons, but each hour exhausts approximately, therefore, also 1 to 2 tons of carbon dioxide. So also your CO2 footprint will be lowered. So how to use this spectrophotometer and how to interpret it, this graphs you produce. So the machine UV Cat spectral scan is using the scans to make a graph. So there are in the machine, which I'll show you later, there are graphs present. And you can compare the existing graphs, they overlay during a cleaning. You can also determine the peak height at certain absorption values, and the results will show in the table underneath the graph. And you can store and print the graphs. So here's an example. So this is the 100 ppm phenol in this case. The vertical lines you can shift from left to right, and the result at that certain wavelength will be shown here in the table beneath. Now, it's always important when you prepare such a graph to make the blank the same medium, the water that's being used for the cleaning, to determine the correct absorbance. You can also store this graphs and use it later for wash water analysis. So how does such a graph look during a cleaning? In this case, we have an example of propionic acid 100 ppm. That's the dark blue line. So that's the line that's being present in the UV spectrophotometer, you call it from the database. You load this graph, take the water used to clean as a blank. That's very important. Not to take damming water, but take the water that's used to clean the certain tank. Then take, for instance, in this case, 30 minutes. You can do after 50 minutes or 20 minutes. You can take a sample and compare the results during the cleaning with the existing line. So every time you do a measurement, a line will show on this graph. And then you take another sample, and then you know your cleaning is below 100 ppm, and the results will be shown here. These vertical lines, you can choose to place them wherever you want, and the results of these lines will be shown here in the table underneath. So in this case, 206 and 324, the absorbance values will be shown here. And then you can store and print the result. You can also send the results to a USB. There are USB slots in the machine as well. So as said, you can determine the peak height at a certain wavelength just by shifting with your fingers on the line. You can see what's happening at that area. You can also zoom in, and this can also be done later in the later stage when you have stored your scan and you want to redo it. You just open the certain scan you have made and manipulate and see what's happening there. As said, you can store and print the graph, so each measurement is automatically stored anyway. So if you forgot to rename it, it's never lost. There's more than 30 gigabyte space on the machine itself, and one scan, one analysis is around 10 kilobytes. So there is plenty of space for years to come to store all your analysis. But you can also send your results directly to a Wi-Fi printer. You can name the file, you can name each test, and then there is options to store it into a USB and open it up in your computer, either by a JPEG as a picture or as a comma separate value file or Excel file. You can open it in that. That can always be done on a later stage. If you forgot to do anything of this, everything is stored on the machine and you can always open it up and do it in the second phase. And the report would look something like this. So these are the values you can, or the names and everything you can give by yourself. It gives you the date, it gives you the method that's being done, the wavelength, the results as a JPEG in different colors, and each color represents the results here on there. So the second phase, we're going to do some tests with the machine itself. Everything explained here we try to show. We'll have to switch cameras. Yeah, okay, I have to stop it. And see it now? Yep. So I hope it's clear on the machine. So as I said at the presentation, it's a touch screen which is very easy to use. The programs are behind this wave-like symbols. The first one is the wash water analysis. So there is alpha color, chloride in water, in methanol, hydrocarbon lower range, high range. There is the other test, the alpha 500 check and the UV IMCA. Then there is the possibility to do a scan or transmittance at a sample. And then there is the database of the scans, which I show you in the second phase of this practicum. First of all, I want to show, for instance, when we do an alpha color, every time you open up a program, there is a little description of how to perform it. In this case, it says it's done at wavelength 455 nanometers. The alpha color uses 50 cuvettes. It has units 0 to 500, and there's a little description. If you continue, then you can start. The nice thing is you never can start your measurement without blanking. So you always have to blank each and every method before you can perform a measurement. Now the part we want to show, of course, is the, for instance, 100 ppm reference scans. I have some samples here with toluene, so we can use that one. And I'm looking up into the database. Just press your finger here. This will show up, and you can easily search for your substance. And here we find toluene in water. There's also toluene in methanol. We're gonna open up toluene in water. Continue. Again, you cannot do any measurements before you do the blank. Now, for the wash water analysis, it's very important to use the water that's being used for cleaning, also to use for the blank. I'm gonna fill up a cuvette. The wash water analysis with the 100 ppm is based on 10 quartz cuvettes. So I'm filling a blank. Blanking the system. That will take some time, so now it goes through all the wavelengths. Now the blanking is finished. And presuming we are doing a washing now, we take a sample of the wash water on the manifold, fill the cuvette, clean the cuvette, place it there, start the measurement. And what will happen is the results will be shown in the same graph of the 100 ppm. So the blue one is 100 ppm, the red one is our sample. In this example, we see that the value is higher than 100 ppm. So this cleaning is not finished yet, it's not finalized. And as I showed in the presentation, you can easily zoom in at certain areas with your fingers by this. And then you can see at certain areas what's happening there on the absorbance values. And these vertical lines you can change by your finger and place it on the area where the peak is highest. If you want to rename, just press your finger here and rename the file. So let's say 20 minutes cleaning, done. We take a second sample after another 20 minutes of cleaning. Fill the cuvette. And start a measurement. Then this result will also be shown on the screen, overlaying the other two. So you can compare each cleaning. Oh, this is lower than 100 ppm. Seems like we're heading the correct way. And for this example, we say it's 40 minutes. Done. And as you can see, the result, the absorbance values are shown here. And that corresponds with the vertical lines here. You can even use a third one if you like. And place it, for instance, here. Okay, and when you're finished, you either first send it to a printer or to USB, or you just stop your experiment. You can rename it. End experiment. Now, if you forgot to name it or you want to recall your experiment, you go to the data viewer, and there all the experiments done on the machine have been saved. So today, 24th of June, one experiment, that's correct, that's the one we did. This one, we called it experiment, we open it up, and here it's back again. You can still zoom, change the lines the way you like, save it or send it to a printer. So that's a nice, any analysis are never lost on this machine. Another example I want to give is the use of the UV scans with the pre-cleaning, the washing. In this case, we're going to use the UV absorbance scan 220 350 nanometers. There's a small description how to use it. We continue, and first we have the blank. So again, this is the water that's being used for cleaning. It's very important to do that, otherwise the matrix is not similar, and that will result in erroneous absorbance value. So the blank is being the water that's used for cleaning. We blank the machine. And we take a sample on the manifold during our pre-wash, our hot wash. See what's happening there. For instance, after 20 minutes. And now we're monitoring the cleaning. Okay.
Koelkast. Margarine?
Oh, sorry, ik zie dat het nog vragen. Ik wou
Right.
vragen.
Finished because I prepared, of course, some dilutions to simulate a cleaning. So this is after 20 minutes on the manifold, we take a sample. So whenever you do something wrong, you saw what I did, you can easily remove your results from the method. Now, this is after 20 minutes. 20 minutes. So that's our first monitoring analysis. Then we take another sample after 40 minutes of cleaning. And see what is happening during this cleaning. It's a nice feature. With the 100 ppm, it will show the results in the same graph. Again, you can use this vertical lines to see what's happening at a certain area. You can zoom in. Then we take another sample after an hour. And we see it's almost a flat line, and there you know that your cleaning is finalized, your cleaning is finished. There's no use to continue with water because the water is not doing anything anymore on the remaining cargo in the tank. So that monitoring could save you a lot of time for each cargo to be cleaned. Again, You can either stop the experiment, or you can export it to a printer, or export it to your USB. You can always do that on a later stage as well. In this case, we finished the named experiment, end experiment. Whenever we forgot something, we go back to the data viewer, and now we have two experiments, and that's correct. The wash water, that was the second we have done today. You can recall it back, and here is your result, always present to send. Nothing is being lost. Some other features I want to emphasize. One of the things we sometimes see is strange results on the spectrophotometer. Now, one of the things that can happen is this cuvette, they come in matching pairs because they're never exactly the same, exactly for the matching pairs. So the matching pairs are called matching pairs because they are exactly the same. When you do a blank with one cuvette and your measurements with a second cuvette, these should be matching pairs. But what sometimes happens is this is broken. We take another one from another box and they're not matching pairs anymore. And that will highly influence your results. So what we advise to do is to use the similar cuvette for the blank as for your samples. That makes sure that there is no discrepancy between the cuvettes. That's one of the things we want to emphasize, and we as a tip. Secondly, a lot of these machines are present in the market, and they are quite tight on this area with the possibility to spill over and probably or possibly destroy anything on the machine. Now, this is watertight. It can be removed. If anything is damaged, you can easily replace it. It has place for a 50 mm cuvette and for a 10 mm. So that sticks quite high. And these parts are quite delicate, but they're far away from your placement of your cuvette inside the machine. So that's quite safe to, it's a little bit larger machine, but this way it's much more safe to protect the delicate materials inside the machine. Then for the data, so as we have shown, there is a quite large database already present inside the machine with all kinds of cargoes and substances, 100 ppm in all kinds of solutions. But whenever there is a new update, it's very easy to update the database. We send a file by email or WhatsApp. You put it on a stick. You place the stick inside the machine, you do update, analyze methods, and your machine is equipped with the latest database, and all the updates, all the software is being updated. Then in case there is any discrepancy or something with the machine, you can make your verification reports or go to diagnostics, and from a distance we can check all this. So we can check the wavelength accuracy, the drift, the noise, the baseline, the stray light, the wavelength accuracy, the photometric accuracy. So in this case, we can see what the machine is doing, or if something is wrong from a distance, and determine how to solve a problem. So that's in short how this machine can be of use for your wash water analysis and reduce tank cleaning, or assist in the wall wash analysis, or follow the results of 100 ppm by your charter requirements. Are there any questions or remarks?
Yes, we have a few.
Okay.
There was one customer using the machine and he says, sometimes I get a negative value. What can be the cause of that?
Yeah, that can have several causes. I should know what's more into detail what that is. One of the things I said is the use of matching pair cuvettes. When they are both not exactly the same or not properly cleaned, then you can have a negative result. So always make sure that there are no droplets and you use the same cuvette as a blank as your sample. That reduces the effect of having negative results. But it really depends on which type of analysis.
Okay, thank you very much. Then there were some questions indeed on the temperature of the blanks and the samples, if they should be equal or not.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So definitely the temperature affects the absorbance value. Now, if you have a difference of 5 to 10 degrees between your blank and your sample, that's not of a problem, and there's little discrepancy. If you have a blank of 20 degrees and your sample is 80, yes, then you see definitely a large discrepancy. And I would advise to try to have both analysis, so your blank and your samples, with the difference of temperature between 5 to 10 degrees. So if you do your sampling at 80 degrees or 60, make sure that your blank is done also at around 50 to 60 degrees.
Okay. And there's a question, if a scan is done in the range of 220 to 350, what is the chance that there is contaminants with peaks outside of this range? And how to scan is in absorbance or reflectance?
Yeah, good question. So it depends, of course, on the cargo or the substance where the maximum lies. Now, for most organics which are shown in the database, the peak height is between 220 and 350. Because below 350, sorry, higher than 350, we go to the visible light. That's between 350 and 700. And most visible lights, of course, then your solution should have a color. So you know if your cargo has no color, you cannot use between 350 and 700. So all the organic solvents have no color, so you know you have to measure in the ultraviolet part of the spectrum. A white 220, well, you can use 220 to 200, but oxygen is one of the substances that's influencing your values lower than 220. So below 220, we always say be careful what you're looking for, because there's a lot of interference from other things than your cargo. And that's why we chose or advise to choose between 220 and 350 to see what's happening.
Okay. Thank you very much. Looking back. Yeah, I think that's most of the questions. And there's, of course, a question, once you purchase this unit, the SpectroScan, if the wash water graphics are being updated, and does it come with a price tag?
Regarding price, I don't know, but I don't think so. But the updates are being sent by the package file, as I said, and it's easy. We send it by email or WhatsApp whenever there is an update, and then you go to the software update. You place the USB and the database is updated. Besides that, we also have certain analysis or graphs specifically for customers. So if you want to have a certain analysis on the machine or a certain graph, we can provide that and send it to you only, for instance.
Yes. So the machine does come with these 100 ppm graphs, and we update the machine, and we can even update it with specific cargoes that you request.
Yeah.
There's also some software, but this is based on the fact that the vessel is frequently online. So there is also software you could install on board to basically make a library that synchronizes once it's online with a cloud in a safe way, so that everybody can access basically the scans of the vessel. And then, for instance, can be sorted on the voyage number and the tank number. So everybody's.
Hey, why? Very busy.
And you can even make remarks on, for instance, the type of cleaning you did prior to the scans. There are several ways, but in any case, the unit comes with, let's say, lifetime updates with regards to the scans. If they're really specific scans for customers, and if it's one, of course, it's probably going to be service. if you say, listen, marine care, I have here 500 substances of which I need the graphs, then this is basically a project on which we will quote you for a price. And then you can either say yes or no. I think that answered most of the questions. I see that the chat is now relatively quiet. We'll keep it open for about 5 more minutes, but essentially I think we can thank you now for your attention and especially for the good participation in the chat. It's been quite busy and every now and then hard for us to keep track of all your questions. But we like it this way. That means you've all been paying attention and are interested in our subject. There was another question I saw coming in by email on the presentation. Yes, the presentation will be shared afterwards via email. It probably will be sent to you via your dedicated marine care contact. So that will be probably the same person that forwarded you the invite to this webinar. All right, I said we'll keep it open until for about 4 to 5 more minutes. If you have any questions, you can pose them. If not, again, thank you for participating and look forward to perhaps seeing you in a new webinar that we will probably do in the coming months on new subjects.
Okay, thank you for your time. It was a pleasure to do the presentation.
In addition to this, I would also like to inform you that we will send you a presentation and all subsequent documents on the subjects we presented. So you can have a look at it, and in case any questions after reading the information, you can always reach us by email. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.